do it.
All right. Good morning, Lakewood Sociology class of 2017. I'm Linda McAllister.
And I'm Shalane Wicker.
And this is our final presentation on motivation.
Hello, this is Linda again, this time from the future. Someone who shall remain unnamed decided to talk on the phone during our entire recording, so let me just do this again as a voiceover to make it a little easier to hear. Let's start by defining motivation, just so everyone is on the same page. Motivation is a noun, and it is the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way.
Thank you, Wikipedia. Oh, wait. None of you heard that.
Anyway, so moving on.
So, great. We've found the definition of motivation. Now we need to discuss the problem that we're tackling, which is, drumroll please.
It's upside down. It is upside down. Okay.
What is driving motivation, or lack thereof, in high school students, and how should we encourage that motivation?
Shalane, why do we always choose problems that don't have single, easy-to-find answers?
It's a talent.
Yeah, right. But seriously, this is not a question with a cookie-cutter answer.
You know, I'd like to think I'm right. Take James and Anthony, for example. Both lovely people, but James is failing, interpretive dance. At the same time, Anthony hates molecular physics, a class that James loves, but excels in the dance class. Meanwhile, other people do well in everything. Some struggle across the board, and many don't even try. Part of this is interest-based, but everyone has different reasons for what they are and aren't willing to put effort into, right?
So, for example, Shalane, how do you decide what you are and aren't going to spend your time on?
It's a good question. I figure out what's more important to me. Do I want to clean my room, or do I want to read a book? Obviously, I'm going to choose book because I love reading. Almost done. Oh my goodness, I'm a slow reader. Didn't say it was great at reading.
She liked it. There's a difference.
While she's finishing that up, I'm going to let you in on some of the literature that we read up on while studying for this topic. We learned about different mental filters from extrinsic to intrinsic. We learned about addictions that could fuel somebody's motivation to do something. And we learned about types of motivation that push towards or away from a current orientation. We also found a lot of teacher websites with tips and tricks on how to motivate their students, but I don't think that's quite the same thing that we were looking for. Finally, we found some personal motivational quotes and such that you'd be able to use to help bolster your own motivation, but I don't think that's quite the same thing as what we were aiming for. Either way, we read up on a lot of information, found a few useful tips and tricks, and I think we're ready to get started.
So, how could we take a sample size, like a group of high school students, and figure out what motivates them?
Well, there's an obvious way to find out.
Which is?
Survey!
Ah, yes, the infamous survey. Before we do that, though, I was thinking more along the lines of a hypothesis.
Right.
Our hypothesis turned out to be this. We guessed that the average senior's most potent source of motivation would be their own interests, the things that inspired them and held their attention. Our thought was that the more interested a student was in something, the greater their success would be.
So, let's rewind. Sure, we could pass out a survey, but we have no clue where to start, what to put on it, or how to phrase the questions that we're asking. So, we need to ask someone with more experience what has motivated them over the years.
Luckily, we have a few of those people on hand. What motivates you?
Myself. I think you get to a certain age in life and you can't motivate yourself. I don't think other people are going to do it, so I'm pretty much done my life where if I have to have something done, I get it done.
What motivates you?
My personal purpose.
What motivates you?
What motivates me? A sense of adding to the world, and so I want to continue to try to do my best to make the world a better place. As cheesy as that sounds, that is actually what I do.
How do you keep up your motivation other than by setting goals?
I think that's just my personality, that I get bored if I'm not setting new goals.
How do you keep your motivation?
I refer back to my purpose.
All right. Okay, other than your personal purpose, do you need anything for your motivation?
Sure. I need encouragement and support from the people who know my personal purpose.
So other than yourself, do you need anything to actually motivate you?
Well, sure. I think, like I said, your family, of course, is always first and foremost. You got your children, grandchildren. You want want to do right by them, set good examples, so that would be a motivator.
Okay, how do you keep your motivation?
Trying to keep balance in my life, so I try, and it's a try, to find a way to do the things that I enjoy that are not work, and then also do my best at work, and also be a good mom, and do all those things. So the attempt at trying to find balance.
Was there ever a time when you lost your motivation?
I probably have for certain things. So I must have lost, I must have lost my motivation, but I those are things that I've just let go instead of, it's all over. I quit. That kind of loss of motivation.
Was there ever a time you lost your motivation?
Oh, I'm sure there was. I don't remember off the top of my head. And I'm sure I've, gone left when I should have gone right.
I again wanted to have opportunities after college that good grades gives you. So that's what kept me going.
Yes, I am motivated by my colleagues.
I'm not going to press anything. All right.
There are things that I find depressing, but I just try to change them.
Birds buzzing us. I'm motivated right now to get done real quick because I think that one is trying to poop on me.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much.
Got some good stuff, I'm sure.
Good stuff right there. Perfect, that's a start. Did you know, Linda, that on some of the research I did, the most reason why people have the greatest motivation is because of their family? A lot of it starts when you're a little kid. If your parents help you out more while you're a child, you're likely to have more motivation and success and continue on following the path.
Nice. Let's see if that pans out.
So, from what we gathered from our teachers and from our personal experience, we came up with a short series of questions that would help us pick out the greatest motivators for our fellow students. We asked our senior class what their cumulative GPA was, which influences motivated them the most over the course of their 4 years, and also which influences proved the most detrimental to their motivation. Some of you may remember taking this. We received 95 completed surveys, roughly half of our senior class, and we compared answers. Out of 95 students, we tallied results for 46 females and 48 males and 1 neutral student. The highest grade point average score overall was between 3.0 and 3.49, with the second highest being between 3.5 and 4.0, and the rest descending in the order that they appear on the graph from left to right. This trend continued in question 2, which asked how the students saw their overall motivation over their high school career. 38 students found themselves motivated to complete their education most of the time, with 33 being motivated all of the time, or very nearly, 20 being motivated only some of the time, and 4 rarely being motivated at all. Now we got to our most important questions, being positive and negative sources of motivation. Our highest answer for the best motivator was family by far, at 70 answers, a far cry from activities and academics, which were all hanging out below 40.
This is where, at least for me, the results were originally very surprising. But then I realized that as much as you might be interested in something, that doesn't necessarily mean you are going to go and pursue it on your own unless you get some sort of encouragement. And honestly, family and friends are the most consistent sources of that.
Contributions to the other category included people like pastors and significant others, as well as several people saying they themselves were the main source of motivation. When it came to our largest sources of demotivation, the results were much sparser and varied, extending across the spectrum for people with lower GPAs, and many of the higher academic achievers saying that nothing demotivated them, or that they didn't actually know. However, a good portion of students also wrote in that they didn't have enough time, that school was boring or that they were lazy, and also that the classes were not challenging enough. As a whole, holding interest is a part of what fuels motivation, but it does appear that, at least for this generation, verbal encouragement from a friend or family member is going to do the most to motivate students to succeed. That's all from me. Shalane and Linda from the past, take it away.
In the future, I would suggest surveying the entire Lakewood school body and tailoring the questions asked to each generation. I did specifically wonder if students with lower GPAs were struggling in a specific type of classes or if it was usually just across the board. So I would add another survey question addressing that.
You know, we could also try going and extending the survey out to other schools so that it's no longer just Lakewood-based too.
That's true. And finally, I would ask each class to give written advice to the one directly below them, giving their personal opinion on how to survive the next year. I think that would provide a much more detailed account of what each individual person thought was important, So we'd get some more specialized results instead of trying to fit it into a one-size-fits-all solution.
That concludes our findings for our study on high school motivation. Thank you very, very much for watching.